Commissioners. This is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
All right, thanks so much, Troy. Welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday, January 9th. It's 1:30 p.m. We'll go ahead and start with a moment of silence. I don't see a pastor present for the invocation, so if you'll please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Let's come to order. If you'll all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the county attorney please provide certification of the agenda?
Yes, sir. County Attorney's Office reviewed all items on the agenda and appropriate jurisdiction is before the board.
Thank you, Counselor. Do any commissioners have any disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and I have none at all as well. First thing on our agenda, item number 2, is ceremonies and proclamations. We're going to hear from Douglas County staff, Dan Avery, Special Projects Manager, a resolution proclaiming January Human Trafficking Prevention Month and January 11th, 2024, Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Mr. Avery.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. At the request of the District Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Office, I'm pleased to introduce this resolution proclaiming January Human Trafficking Prevention Month and January 11th Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Whereas human trafficking is a serious crime impacting communities everywhere, even in Douglas County, and involves the exploitation of adults and children for the purposes of compelled labor or commercial sex work. In Colorado, it most often presents as sexual exploitation, forced labor, involuntary servitude, and debt bondage. And whereas human trafficking is a scourge, a crime that hides in plain sight and most often goes unreported due to several complex issues, including its covert nature, the lack of awareness about trafficking indicators, and methods of coercion and control employed by traffickers. And whereas fighting human trafficking must include educating the community on trafficking indicators and the resources and services available for victims of these crimes, these criminal acts. And whereas by effectively encouraging the public to understand the signs of trafficking, pay attention to their surroundings, and report unusual situations to law enforcement, together we can help restore freedom and dignity to trafficking survivors, as well as help diminish the number of future victims. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County joins together with its law enforcement partners, including the Douglas County Sheriff's Office and the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office, to demonstrate a joint commitment to prevention, prosecution, and eradication of human trafficking by increasing awareness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County proclaims January Human Trafficking Prevention Month and January 11th, 2024 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day in Douglas County.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Avery. We'll bring that before the board in a moment. I'm also told we're joined today by Chris Wilcox, Douglas County Office of the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office, as well as Chief Deputy DA Chris Gallo, Special Victims Unit. If those individuals would like to come forward and speak on the resolution, you're welcome to at this time. And then, of course, Sheriff, happy to have you speak on the subject if you would like to as well. Please come forward, sir. Go ahead and hit the podium, please. And once again, give us your name and your office.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chris Gallo. I am the Chief Deputy District Attorney for the Special Victims Unit at the District Attorney's Office for the 18th Judicial District. I'm here by way of request of John Kellner, our elected District Attorney, and his Senior Deputy District Attorney, Chris Wilcox. My unit supervises the prosecution of crimes against children and sexually based crimes in all 4 counties of the 18th Judicial District. Most importantly, to our discussion today, my unit supervises the prosecution of human trafficking throughout the Judicial District. Human trafficking annually is an industry in the United States that brings in $150 billion for the perpetrators of those offenses. Statistically speaking, a child who is brought into the wheels of that industry is going to be between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. It's a seventh grader. If that child is not rescued from the wheels of that industry, that child's life expectancy is less than 7 years. That seventh grader will likely not see their 21st birthday if they remain within the grasps of those who would traffic them. Very happily, I thank the commissioners, I thank Douglas County as a whole, not only for the resolution that they are considering today, but for the efforts that the commission and the county as a whole has undertaken throughout the years to support the efforts of law enforcement, to support the efforts of my office in prosecuting and holding accountable those who would perpetrate these types of crimes. And I thank the commissioners for their efforts and their partnership in holding accountable those who would perpetrate these types of crimes, because there are people who would perpetrate these types of crimes right here in Douglas County. This is not a problem that exists only in Eastern Europe. It's not a problem in New York that only exists in Brooklyn. It doesn't only exist in Los Angeles. It exists in Highlands Ranch. It exists in Parker, in Castle Rock, up in the Pines, way down on Rainbow Ridge. This is a problem that exists everywhere. In fact, due to the efforts and the participation of Douglas County and the support of our county commissioners, my office has been able to secure the longest sentences against human traffickers handed down, not in the state, not in the country, but in the history of humanity. One in Arapahoe County, an individual was sentenced to more than 500 years to life for trafficking individuals from the state of California to Aurora. Importantly to our conversation, the second longest sentence handed down in the history of humanity for somebody who trafficked children and adults for sexual servitude occurred right here in this jurisdiction, right here in Douglas County. And it is efforts by yourselves, county commissioners, in bringing awareness to this issue and your continued support of our partners in law enforcement and my office that allow us to hold those who would perpetrate those crimes accountable. And for that, you have my office and my personal deepest thanks.
Thank you very much, Counselor. I appreciate you sharing that with us. At this time, are there any questions or comments from the board?
I do have some comments, and Attorney Wilcox, I just want to direct this to you and the Attorney's Office, District Attorney's Office, to District Attorney Kellner, of course, Aurora Ogg, and everyone that's representing the District Attorney's Office. This is a big issue in Douglas County, and attacking those that would go after the most vulnerable is literally the most important work that we can possibly do. So I'm glad we're focused on that issue, and I want to, on behalf of the county and my colleagues, extend our deepest thanks for all of that great work. I'm not a big fan of proclamations. I think they're important, but the reality is they're just words. What's truly important is putting the funding and the effort and the energy behind important initiatives, and human trafficking is one of those. We hosted a live town hall on human trafficking this last year, engaged in educational forums throughout the community. We're sponsoring legislation through CCI this year to improve those criminal background checks at the federal level, and appreciate your support. I know there's additional legislation going forward to increase criminal penalties for those that would prosecute those, for those that would commit those crimes. And we know that you all support that. So the work continues, but we are pleased and honored to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. I understand from a presentation we got from the sheriffs yesterday that he has reorganized his department so that he can even better respond to these kinds of crimes. And I think for a long time, this kind of crime happened in secret, that people didn't understand it was going on, maybe even next door. And so I appreciate what you do, and I think that these crimes and these prosecutions probably take a personal toll on your prosecutors as well. So thank you for what you do for our community and to keep our kids safe.
Well, I'll just end with the remarks of it. This is an area of law enforcement I just wasn't aware of before becoming a county commissioner. 6.5 years on the Castle Rock Council. This was just not something brought to our awareness. And of course, our relationship with the 18th Judicial here at the county is a little different than in the municipalities. But it's at one moment shocking, and yet at the next moment, it's a relief that we do have, Counselor, yourself, the members of your office that are focused on this, that are doing their best to not just talk about something, but take action, and take action for the interests of the people of Douglas County. If there's no other comments by the board, I would ask, is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution proclaiming January Human Trafficking Prevention Month and January 11th, 2024 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day.
Second.
Any further discussion on this resolution? There is a motion, there is a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? It passes. Thank you all very much for joining us and bringing this very important issue to our attention. Moving along to item 3, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I have a motion to approve the request in all items A through AB of the consent agenda. AC has been pulled from the agenda.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are no opposed. Chair is an aye as well. Moving along to our regular agenda. Our first item is 4A, a motion to, an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lone Tree and the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County regarding cost sharing for the construction of the Lone Tree Mobility Hub project in an amount not to exceed $1 million. And I have Mr. Arthur Griffith from Douglas County staff presenting.
Good afternoon, Art Griffith for engineering staff. This is long in coming. CDOT has been trying to advance the mobility hubs up and down the I-25 corridor and elsewhere in the state for some time. There was a great opportunity for the local agencies to partner with CDOT and pursue funding through the Denver Regional Council of Governments through a call for projects. Just in the past year, we, Douglas County, partnered with Lone Tree to pursue that, and the project was successful in being selected to receive $8 million to advance the Mustang Mobility Hub project. And that will be located just south of Lincoln Avenue. In the last page of the exhibit to the IGA, there's a map that shows the location of that. Strategically located, Lone Tree worked closely with the landowners and the stakeholders in there in selecting that project location. The project's estimated to cost about $20 million to construct. Douglas County, when we encouraged Lone Tree to pursue the DRCOG project application for funding, identified support for the project and identified $1 million contribution subject to annual appropriations. So before you today is a recommendation to approve that IGA for the Lone Tree Mobility Hub project, which CDOT is responsible for managing the project during the design and construction phase. There's actually a 30% review meeting tomorrow for that project, and pending approval of the 2024 annual budget, there will be funding allocated for the county's contributions. Any questions regarding this project?
Questions from the board?
I don't have any questions, but Art, this is in my district, and the partnership with Lone Tree has been really tremendous. So thank you for all of your incredible work. Appreciate it.
Any questions, Commissioner Thomas?
I have none.
Art, you're right. This has been a long time in the cooking to come before us. Can you remind me, with the money that was secured through DRCOG, was we had our 4 tips over in the most recent cycle. The lion's share of the funding for this, remind me which tip and what that source of funding actually came in from Dr. Cog was.
Great question. So there were exactly 4 different parts of the Dr. Cog tip process for this allotment. And the bulk of the money came from the first call, which is a regional call. And those first and second calls had to focus on bike, ped, and transit projects. So this was a great project to pursue that. And so approximately $6 million was allocated through that regional, very competitive, because all the projects, including RTD and CDOT and all 57 agencies that make up Dr. Cog, were eligible to pursue those projects. And then in the next cycle, at the sub-regional level, so there was a portion of funds allocated to each sub-region based on counties, we identified that this would be the highest priority to backfill funds with. And so the additional $2 million came out of that second selection process.
Excellent. Yeah, it was quite the team effort to get together as a sub-region. Representatives from all the municipalities as well as the county met in order to establish that priority. And I don't know, yet another great example of when the county governments can work together. Any other questions for Mr. Griffith?
I have none.
You know, that did just spark an additional question. So for those in my district that would anticipate a summary or what this would look like in the future at its conclusion, what would that look like for them?
The project involves building an additional pedestrian bridge over I-25 north of Skyview, south of Lincoln, that would then allow people that are wanting to use CDOT's Bustang to access the bus as it pulls off, let's say, the shoulder of I-25, both for southbound I-25 and northbound I-25. So it's essentially across from the Schwab and Kiewit facilities on the west side, and pretty close to the light rail, so easy to connect to light rail. Series of sidewalks that exist today, some of which will be added to make connections as on the west side, as well as future sidewalk connections on the east side as development occurs in City Center.
Great. Thank you, Art.
Okay, any other questions from the board for Mr. Griffith?
I have none.
Okay, let's go ahead and open this item up for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this IGA between the county and Lone Tree City? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Please let us know your name and where you're from.
Jill Campbell. I'm from Highlands Ranch. I've been a citizen here 2 years and about 5 months. I think it's great to have access to busing, and I'm all for making things easier for pedestrians and things, but he said an additional bridge. Is that a convenience, or is it more just, I don't know, I know a little bit of that area. I travel Lincoln a lot and 25, but additional bridge for a more business district, or is it more pedestrian? Is it making it safer, or is it just convenience for a quicker access to bridges? Just wondering, because that's a lot of money right now, but I agree transportation and development costs money. So infrastructure and safety for pedestrians, and also encouraging business and access to 25 essential.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Campbell. We'll have Mr. Griffith try to tackle that question for you once we hear from other public comment. Is there any other member of any other citizen who would like to make public comment on this matter? Seeing none in the room, Troy, do we have anybody online that would like to speak on public comment on this matter?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Thank you, ma'am. Hey, Art, can you try to tackle that question for Ms. Campbell, please?
Great question. Maybe additional wasn't the best word. So you should say that along Lincoln Avenue, there are existing sidewalks. It's a very busy road, and it's not very convenient or desirable for people that want to walk on Lincoln Avenue with high-speed traffic. And then a lesser significant road, but still important, Sky Ridge Avenue also has some pedestrian facilities on it, but its main function is for automotive traffic. So this will be a bridge added specifically for bikes and peds to use, somewhere in between those two bridges, more closely to the south, about a third of the way north of Skyview and 2/3 of the way south of Lincoln. That's my response.
Okay, good to go. Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Let's bring it back to the board for action. Is there any further comment or a motion pertaining to this IGA?
Art, I'd like to thank you for the work you've done on this. There's a lot of partnerships involved in here, and that's kind of like Douglas County's middle name is partnership. So thank you for all these people you work with all the time on projects, on bringing another project that will help move traffic more efficiently.
You're very welcome.
Well, and I'll just add that this is in addition to a lot of work around reimagining that corridor and certainly the Lincoln I-25 interchange. So this is part of that puzzle piece along that corridor that I think will make a significant impact. So thank you.
Geez, Art. I remember the first time you and I spoke when I was still on the Castle Rock Council, and we were talking about a big infrastructure project, and you said, yeah, it's probably going to take some time. That was only about almost 10 years ago, and it's still taking time for that one project, but even this one, this was years in the making, and I know you really, you pulled the weight for the county on this one. So, well done. Let's see if we have a motion to adopt this IGA. Is there a motion to be made?
I have a motion to approve an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lone Tree and the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County regarding cost sharing for the construction of the Lone Tree Mobility Hub project in the amount not to exceed $1 million. Douglas County project number CI 2023-041.
Second.
All right, well, there is a motion and a second for this IGA. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And there are none. And this IGA passes. Art, well done, and thank you. Item number 4B is an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lone Tree and the Board of Douglas County Commissioners regarding cost sharing for the enhancement and expansion of the Link on-demand free transit program. Once again, Art Griffith presenting for staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. Another successful partnering project that came together very quickly in the May-June timeframe of 2023 when RTD announced a small amount of money that was available throughout the region to advance projects like this focused on transit, improving transit services. It was very competitive. However, the City of Lone Tree staff was in a good position because they were working on advancing what we referred to earlier as the Lone Tree Link on Demand project. This is a light, moving us a little ways away from Lone Tree Link on Demand as working with Denver South Transportation Management Association and the other stakeholders in the Southeast Public Improvement District, acronym SPIMED, working collectively to advance mobility projects like this in the whole SPIMED boundary. So there's a slight even renaming of this as we move this forward to simply Link on Demand instead of Lone Tree Link on Demand as we focus on expanding services. And as I said, there was a pot of money that was identified, only $2 million for an area that went all the way to Aurora in Colfax, over to I-25 in Hamden, and down all the way to Broadway, and then all the way focused to Parker. That was one area, there was only 2 million, and this project was well prepared to submit that application, and essentially is receiving $1,072,000, or essentially half that pot of money for this project. So that partnership is a great leveraging opportunity for the county, as we're only asked to contribute $144,000 towards this $2.8 million transit program to provide transit operations for 24 and 25. And it allowed us to expand the services to throughout Meridian. There was some basic services, limited services on the west side of I-25, but primarily the original Lone Tree link focused just on services on the west side of I-25. So now we're expanding to include both services with this partnership that's before you. The county is not responsible for any maintenance and operations for the next 2 years. The city of Lone Tree will operate this program, and as I said, our contribution is $144,000. Lone Tree is contributing $1,092,000, and Denver South TMA/SpyMed is contributing $504,000. So any questions regarding this partnering opportunity?
Yeah, questions from the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, this is a really exciting project, and I think it's very forward-leaning into 2024. When we think about the future of transportation, of course, there are a lot of different platforms for people to get around, but particularly with our seniors and the most vulnerable, being able to have access to a ride to get to doctor's appointments and the grocery store, just basic needs is important, especially for those that don't have vehicles. And we have seen a real success with the Lone Tree Link. And for those that aren't familiar, it's basically a ride share. So it's a partnership with Uber and a few other governmental entities, so that it's really a ride on demand. Right now, to my understanding, it's really just based in the Lone Tree area. So to your point, expansion of Lone Tree Link to be Link throughout the region really could expand those opportunities for transportation to other jurisdictions. I know that in our monthly mayor's meeting with the mayors of each municipality, we have discussed and floated this idea of expanding Link, and it's just met with incredible enthusiasm. So I think there's a real desire, especially in my district, which is Lone Tree and Parker, to see Link expand, especially for those vulnerable older adults. So I guess part of my question might be to walk us through where Link has been, and I don't know if you have any statistics about ridership and the current demand that Link is facing?
I didn't bring any detailed ridership information. The City of Lone Tree staff, Dan Rain, has been running that program, and it's been very successful in the ridership and even the recovery post-COVID. Ridership is continuing to rise, and they chart that. And as you said, the current, I should say the previous, because we're into the new year here, but the previous year's Lone Tree only focused on services on the west side, but that would be to hospitals and offices and the mall, pharmacies and businesses and things like that. So it's a free shuttle service, and as they move forward, they're focusing on providing 4 compact shuttles capable to transport 3 to 6 passengers with as many as 2 wheelchairs. They operate that services for 306 days a year, so some days they don't operate. I think that's on Sundays, but I'm not 100% sure. So I know I can get more information available if you'd like from Dan Rain related to that. Some of that information is presented at the Denver South TMA meeting, and they also have that as available, that information.
Yeah, and thank you for that. My understanding is that the demand is continuing to increase. In terms of logistics, so people can order that up on their phone just like they would in Uber. But when we think about Commissioner Teal's senior initiative and for older adults that may not be as tech savvy, will there be alternatives for seniors to access Link?
Yes, to order up service, yeah. And again, I don't have the details of that, but it's not just completely dependent on those people with the phones, so there's other ways to order up the service.
Okay, like they can call just call the number?
One of the benefits, yeah, calling. One of the benefits of the app on the phone is it's really up to date immediately, and you can make decisions if that's going to fit your time frame or not. So those people that maybe schedule things at the last minute, the app has some benefit to having that.
Okay, and you said that it's available 300 and how many days per year?
306.
306. So in terms of times during the day, is it 24/7 or is it limited time?
It's not 24/7.
Yeah.
It's focused more during the workday and during what certain days of the weeks. It might extend a little on various days, a little further into the evening, maybe like on Friday nights or something. Because there might be some opportunity to use that for people that might be going to out to eat or shop and things like that. So,
Okay.
but it's not a 24/7.
Yeah. Well, I would just say as one commissioner, I think as demand continues to increase, having that discussion around increasing the availability, both in terms of number of days per year and then hours during the day, I think would be a significant discussion point for us.
Commissioner Thomas, any questions?
I have none.
Okay. My question for you, Art, is what's the chicken and the egg on this one? Because I can recall having a conversation with Mayor Millay 5 years ago, and thinking, wow, this Lone Tree Link, this is a really great idea. I proposed as the future of actual transit that would work here in Douglas County. And her response to me was, keep your hands off my Lone Tree Link. It's Lone Tree Link. It's not George Teal Link or Castle Rock Link or Douglas County Link. So what's the chicken and the egg on, how did this, was it really the RTD money coming in that caused SpyMed to consider the partnership? Was it at Lone Tree, the opportunity to expand their service outside of the city limits? Can you share your insights with us on that?
Denver South Transportation Management Association has a technical advisory committee. We have representatives from engineering and planning department that participate in those technical meetings. And Denver South learned of this opportunity to pursue this RTD funding. We saw this opportunity to engage Meridian, which in also being able to benefit from services. Denver South TMA had already been providing some funding for just the Lone Tree Link on Demand project for a number of years, and saw the success and was pleased with the results and the way it was performing. And so it was very quick come together to submit this, and in the May-June timeframe to take advantage of maybe winning a golden egg from this limited funding over these next couple of years. We'd like to see RTD continue to put money available to local agencies to pursue these types of projects and partnering. But originally, the whole thing did focus on the west side, just serving Lone Tree. And over time, Denver South and people have seen a real benefit to expanding that to the whole service area. So this is kind of the first step to see how things would work in expanding to the east side and picking up the Meridian areas.
Okay, very, very cool. Any other questions from the board for Mr. Griffith?
Yeah, so you're really good at identifying these big pockets of grants and funding and resources from the state and the feds and with our partners. So one of the challenges that I know Town of Parker has is an ongoing desire to get out of RTD. And we see this annual conversation about legislation to get them out, which regularly fails, unfortunately. Are there opportunities to partner with RTD on Link in the future for our municipalities?
Obviously, the large employment in the Denver South SpyMed boundary comes from Parker. So there is benefits for them. Does that mean that as we look at this moving forward, Link on Demand, will they focus just within the boundary? Typically, that would probably be a primary focus, but sometimes there's opportunities to run outside the boundary and bring people in. It depends on the demand and time, available. So that's something to look at, Zeke Lynch here is going to manage a study that we got money through Dr. through the recent calls for multimodal transit connectivity study that will identify things. Long term, there is connections along Lincoln to bus services that access Parker, as well as a route that even goes over to Parker Road and then all the way up to Aurora to 225 and Parker Road. So connecting to those things will be considered, but nothing right away, on that. But that study that Zeke will look at opportunities to engage other municipalities and to partner. Again, most of operating costs that comes for these shuttle services are 50-50 splits. So you have to have a large local match for these projects.
Well, I get that. Maybe asked a different way, and I don't want to speak for Parker, but at being part of my district, they might say that a lot of people are not riding Mustang, that they may not use or avail themselves of light rail as much as Lone Tree might. So as an alternative to getting out of RTD, is there a conversation to be had about redirecting RTD funds that Parker might see for buses or other items toward a link?
Those conversations have occurred, but they were not tied specifically to this partnership with Denver South and RTD. So something that we can consider to explore.
Okay.
Wasn't considered as anything in this. It just pretty much stayed within the SpyMed area boundary, the southern boundary, as it expanded to Oswego and Lincoln. There's a area of Meridian in there, as well as Meridian. I think there may be opportunities to provide services to Amazon as well, but not part of this went beyond that towards Parker.
Right, and I'm aware that I do sit on the Denver South Board.
Yeah.
One of the challenges there is I'm not sure that Parker has strong or any representation on the Denver South Board, unless I'm forgetting somebody there.
Not to my knowledge. No.
Okay, so Parker should probably be part of Denver South, and just continuing to think about unincorporated Douglas County and our municipalities, having an expanded conversation around Link, I think would be really helpful.
And I know that the study I mentioned that Zeke's going to lead, similar interests are true for City of Castle Pines and Castle Rock, to provide connectivities with transits that connect those to the north as well.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions from the board for Mr. Griffith?
Just a comment that item that we're here to talk about is an agreement to expand the link in Lone Tree, and yet we're talking about Parker being added to Denver South. So it's just interesting how the conversation is being expanded. Thank you.
Indeed. I have no further questions for Mr. Griffith. Any other from the board? If none, we will, let's go ahead and proceed with public comment on this item. If there's any member of the public present that would like to come forward and speak on this matter, please do so right now. Jill, come on forward. And once again, for formality, ma'am, please give us your name and where you're from.
Jill Campbell. I'm from Highlands Ranch. Transportation is essential, especially as the cost of cars and gas increase and people can't afford transportation. They're pushed into a busing system or some kind of transportation. So as we are Douglas County and we incorporate 7 different cities, I believe it's 7, correct me if I'm wrong, Parker is one of them. And Parker has a funnel. It's very difficult to even ride the RTD down that Parker Road. It would be a nightmare for me to try to navigate that. So I agree with Link, but I think pushing it to connect with RTD, because RTD gets 1% of taxpayer dollars. I don't think the revenue is very much. I think it's supplementing those that don't even ride, hardly are homeless, maybe in some essential, maybe provides warmth a lot of times. I don't see a lot of excess of our RTD, so I would push the Link, and Link had over 60,000 projected in 2015. Isn't that how 9 years you've been? How long have you been Link?
I'm not sure.
Okay, about 254. It looked like 215 to me, 2015. So when you're looking at transportation and the cost of energy and gas and all this, our future is transportation and making it accessible, and that's part of our economy. And so to push this with RTD would be essential, and it would take a partnership and a support from tax dollar money to keep going Link. And he's saying he has to get 50% from private entities like Schwab and Kaiser and things like that. They're hard to continue to make contracts with businesses in a failing, with a marginalized economy. So I would say, I would go to RTD and share the profit with them and help them. I think Link is more essential than RTD for people. You're taking a Link of a 6, I'll tell you my experience with Link. I just had it. So I was at a hospital, and I was taken by the firefighters the other night. I had the flu, I got the flu at a Boulder ER, and 12 hours later I was 86% oxygen and hypertension, and also 103.2. So the firefighters took me, they're great men, took me to Sky Ridge, my choice, not UC Health Highlands Ranch. So they took me to Sky Ridge, and but they picked up a purse that didn't have my ID. I was stuck there with no ID, no money, and they connected me, the hospital concierge connected me with Link, a transportation system. It was out of my district, which was Highlands Ranch, and only served Lone Tree. So essential to provide these services, because we're all part of a community, Parker included, and RTD and Link together. Why not partner? Why not push this to partner and help support with 1% of our tax dollar money when we're giving 36 for our housing taxes? I'd like transportation to be more accessible. Be great.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in public comment on this matter? Seeing none in the room, Troy, do we have anybody online who would like to speak on this matter?
I have no online comment.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's bring it back to the board for further discussion or action.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lone Tree and the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County regarding cost sharing for the enhancement and expansion of the Link on Demand free transit program in the amount of $144,000, Douglas County project number CI 2023-042.
Second.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Well, I will just say, I said earlier, I think this is the future of transit here in Douglas County. I myself have My activism in the public sphere started in 2005 with Castle Rock's withdrawal from RTD. I was in favor of it. It passed. Castle Rock is not a part of RTD. I thought that was the best thing for myself and my neighbors, and I still think it's a pretty good deal. I think this is the future of transit here in Douglas County. I am wildly enthusiastic that this came together. I look forward to big things with this one. Any other discussion?
Well, I would just echo my support of that, and there's a reason that I'm being pointed on Parker. It's thinking ahead to the future, not just the present, and so I think this is the seeds of what could become really significant throughout the entire county. So our hope, I believe, as a board, is to direct staff to really augment those conversations, and again, do what you do best, which is find dollars for the project.
So just to provide a little bit of color to this discussion, Commissioner, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Art, but the primary champion for our transit study that the county sought funding with Dr. Cog for and received it was actually Mayor Pro Tem Dyack in Parker. I think if you were to push John, we all have a relationship with John Dyack. If you were to get him into a conversation over a glass of bourbon, I'm pretty sure he would very much agree with you and very much share your vision on how this can go. Again, I'm wildly enthusiastic. I will absolutely be in favor. Is there any further discussion, or would we like to have a vote? Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of adopting this IGA, say aye.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Any opposed is none. So this IGA is adopted. Moving along to agenda item 4C, this is acceptance of mental health data diversion project grant award presented by Joel White, Captain, Sheriff's Department of Douglas County.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Commissioners. This is for the acceptance of our mental health data diversion project. We started the project mid-year of 2023. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office was recently notified that we received or were awarded $683,000 by the Colorado Department of Human Services of Civil and Forensic Mental Health and Competency Fines Committee. The project was set up to find a more efficient way to connect our 911 callers and our regular callers to our dispatch center in need of mental health or co-occurring disorder services, and get them to local providers and increase the number of such calls to behavioral health cases with our co-responder systems to get our co-responder, our HEART teams, and our CRT teams really diverted to those calls quicker. The current software that we use is the officers and dispatchers have to extract the current software is the DCSO utilizes to extract criminal justice patterns. It's a time-consuming process. There's no centralized system. We have New World LERMs in our detentions system, and deputies really have to hand search each of those databases to really get a history or a flag on these individuals to push them towards those services. Force metric software, we located Force metric software, and they're able to really combine all those with a single search engine bar, and they really essentially they take all three systems, and it's almost like a Google search, and you put in a name, you put in an address, and it sets up flags on mental health, disabilities, homelessness, and it really drives us to those co-responder programs. The search capability will empower deputies to make informed, data-driven decisions that will have a real impact on our community, make it safer, and divert applicable calls for service to those folks. Calls will be triaged in an efficient way to identify the needs of that individual. This will not only enable dispatchers to quickly address and divert calls, but will expand services already in place within Douglas County. The data received from Force Metrics will enhance our current dispatch, CRT, and jail approaches for persons experiencing mental health issues, which will enable these calls to be addressed more efficiently and effectively. Currently, we have 19 folks awaiting competency court in Douglas County, and the goal is to lower that through the state of Colorado and the Fines Committee. So we'd like to get these folks services before they're pushed into the system and into competency court, and better provide them services. When the Fines Committee awarded this project to us, they gave us $683,000. 500 of that was for the Force Metrics software, which is a very unique software. And it's able to go into our police reports, into our prior calls for service, into our CAD data, into our jail data, and really educate us to who we're dealing with and what we're getting into. The Fines Committee noted that other jurisdictions are going to start replicating our draft of this, and it's being looked at throughout the metro area. Sorry, for some reason I'm super nervous. And they're very supportive. The Fines Committee actually, in a couple calls, was very supportive of our co-responder committee, our CRT teams, our HEART teams, and they're very excited for this. They also, we didn't ask for it, but they also awarded us $83,000 for inpatient and outpatient mental health and substance abuse treatment. That was just an addition on to us that will supplement the county. They awarded us a project manager, overtime, and computers that come with that project manager. This is a fully funded project by the Fines Committee, and there's no matching funds that need to occur. And that's what I have.
All right. Thank you, Captain. So now it's the time to get nervous, because now is when we get to ask more questions.
That's good. We're good. I'm good with questions.
All right. Questions from the board for Captain White.
So, Captain, I find it interesting that you are nervous. I bet you drive a car that goes fast, you carry a firearm, and you stop cars in the middle of the night, and you don't know who's in that car. And you are nervous here. I think that's fascinating.
I'm a bomb technician. I'd rather go up against the bomb than talk some days.
We're not that bad. I have to tell you that last night when I was reading this item, I was fascinated by this because as you probably know, Barbara Drake has been working on the mental health initiative in Douglas County, and I've been working with her for many, many years. And I didn't know anything like this existed. So when I read this, I thought, what a great opportunity to use technology to pull all these things together. As I understand it, so a deputy in the car isn't manually having to find all this stuff on his or her own. This software will allow them to make a search and everything will come at once. Is that right?
That's correct.
I think that's fascinating. Thank you for finding this. Where did you find this?
Just through online searches and some of our, just going out in the community and researching. We were able to link up with Andre McGregor, who's the founder of Force Metrics, who was an FBI agent and served both in Denver and Washington, D.C. And once we connected, we just started working on this project together with Kim Browning, our grant writer in the Fines Committee.
And you've been doing it since the middle of last year?
Mid 2023.
Amazing. Thank you. This is very interesting. I appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank you.
So, Captain White, you know all of us, so it should make you nervous at all. And we're always pleased to see you, and thank you for all the work that you do on a variety of levels. But I guess I was surprised that this technology wasn't already in existence, and I imagine that a lot of the calls, the 911 calls, can be diverted by individuals with that, the frequent flyers, so to speak, that continue to use the system. So I guess in many ways, my question would be, going forward, how will this eliminate some of that that duplication and the work? I mean, in terms of efficiency, what will this look like for you?
Well, I think this stops the duplication. So I do want you to understand that like a call CAD for service note does come up.
Yeah.
And is in the dispatcher is informed on prior service calls, but the report that's taken and the information that's in that report that's taken for that call, that person or that address, that's not correlated with those. So this brings it all together, and looking forward, the Finance Committee was so excited about this, and really the potential to keep people out of jail, get them diverted to mental health professionals, and get them diverted to the help they need. And this is mental health. I want to just add real quick, this helps our folks with disabilities. So if you have somebody who's hearing impaired, blind, this is also a tool for us to know that going into this, that this is what our first responders are coming into. I think this is good. The Finance Committee is convinced that if this is utilized correctly, and we see a decrease in our folks going to jail, and that they'll continue to fund this program.
Great, thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. I have no questions. As a guy who spent 20 years in the software industry trying to use technology to help solve my clients' problems, this actually, I find this heartening. This looks great. Let's go ahead and open the floor for public comment. Captain, if you could step back, and if there's anybody who'd like to make public comment on this memorandum of understanding and acceptance of funding, please step forward now. And seeing none in the room, Troy, do we have anybody online who'd like to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Bringing it back to the board, further discussion or action by the board?
I have a motion to approve the Mental Health Data Diversion Project Grant Award from the Colorado Department of Human Services Office of Civil and Forensic Mental Health and the Competency Fines Committee, and approval of the related Memorandum of Understanding in the amount of $683,300.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Again, going back to my comments, I think this is great, using technology to help our people be more efficient in serving the public. It's something I always want to see. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion among the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. The funds are accepted and MOU is approved. All right, so moving along to agenda number 5. We do have a few moments to entertain citizen comments and organization comments. Is there any member of the public at this time? Any member of the public is welcome to comment about any topic other than those that appeared on today's agenda. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts and ideas with us. Please come forward, state your name and where you reside. Prior to making comments, you will have up to 3 minutes, and commissioner comments, if any, will follow all citizen comments. And then just a cautionary topic, we will poll the board in a few at 2:30. We do have a long agenda following citizen comment to get to with our public meetings, our public hearings, so we may cut public comment short. Ma'am, your name and where you're from?
My name is Cindy Lepsinski. I live in Wildcat Ridge. I will get straight to the point, and that is the failure of leadership from Teal and Layden. When you took your oath of office, you swore to work for us, certainly not against the good people of Douglas County. In the current cultural climate we find ourselves, we observe attacks from every corner. This nation, this county is in trouble. Our values, families, and even our churches are attacked by evil forces. that are trying to destroy us. You know what I'm talking about. Right now, we crave and need strong leaders who offer tangible protection and direction. We need leaders who will lead us forward. Instead, we feel like we have to constantly fight for what is right. We are compelled to speak up just to have our legally elected leaders represent us. We are pleading with you. Let Laura do her job. Please restore her to her committees, her co-chairship, expense accounts, give her the respect she deserves, stop this insanity, and please stop this stupid postcards. We long for a sense of safety. Yet this overbearing tone of uncertainty is pervading our Douglas County government. We have become more suspicious of your motives and secret agendas. Good leaders understand the value of both strength and gentleness. Yet Teal and Layden seem to have mistaken bullying and aggression for strength, and your attempts at gentleness are overshadowed by threats and silencing of our voices, calling our attempts to be heard theater. We don't want to keep coming here regularly and speaking about this. We don't want to feel like our leaders are working against us. Good leaders offer protection, direction, support, a sense of safety, and advocacy. They make us think and move forward. They are trailblazers. A false leader intends harm rather than to protect. As long as you're working against us, you will not have any peace. We will continue to speak out. Either do the right thing or get used to hearing our voices. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am. Board, it is 2:31. We do have public hearings scheduled for 2:30. I'm going to poll the board. Would you like to continue with citizen comment, or should we continue with the agenda as publicly announced?
Mr. Chair, we have a posted board meeting at 2:30 to adopt our near $800 million budget, and I recommend that we move forward on the county's business.
You know, we often say that we work for the people, and there's people here to talk to us, and I think the respectful thing to do is to hear from them.
Okay. The primary responsibility of county commissioners, as articulated in the Colorado Constitution, is to adopt the budget of local government. And so at this time, we will close public comment, and we will close our business meeting and proceed to our scheduled and announced public hearings at 2:30. Thank you all for joining us.
Cowards.
Replace Teal, recall Layden.
Cowards. We'll see you in 2 weeks.